A well-developed motor plan allows people to perform actions without thinking. That is, automatically. What are some things? People with cerebral palsy, traumatic brain injury, cognitive impairments, and a wide variety of neurodegenerative conditions depend on motor planning to perform simple movements to an even greater degree than their non-disabled peers. What do I... Can you name some things that are motor planned?
Brushing your hair or your teeth.
Couldn't be brushing your hair, brushing your teeth. What about driving a car? Very much so. And, you know, when I know where my brake is, I know where my gas is. When I'm driving down the road, I can use almost peripheral feedback to determine whether I'm between the yellow line on the right and the white line over here. And now to help people, they've started, you know, making it noisy when you go there. And, you know, okay. So that gets motor planned. Do you remember, I remember my first driving lesson because the car was supposed to turn, I was going to turn the steering wheel, you know. You don't. It's just, my father said, very little. And I was 8 or 9. You know, and do you really, are you out there really mastering how much you need to turn the wheel? That just comes with, you know, you see, the, you know, and you go, that's all a motor plan. Motor plans are, in fact, not entirely motor. Automaticity involves many different factors, visual, perceptual factors. Visual, perceptual, it involves cognition. You need to know that this is going to do what you want, so there's a cognitive faculty. You know, there's a bunch of cognitive faculties. Okay, so motor planning is not just motor planning. When a pianist sits down to play, say, Beethoven's Fifth Piano Concerto, I saw that earlier this year. It was Efrem Bromsman doing it. He's from Uzbekistan and he grew up in Israel. I have never seen such complex piano mastery. You know, there's a very complex piece with all these cadenzas in it, and he didn't use music. You know, he was up there for about 35 minutes. Well, there you see a motor plan. I mean, he couldn't be thinking each one of those through, but he was certainly using his perceptual stuff about what was coming in his fingers, and then he was using his cognitive stuff because he was listening, you could hear him listening very intently to the music itself. So there was cognitive aspects of his automaticity, motor aspects, perceptual aspects, and the whole system works together. Well, that's what we're just calling it motor planning, but okay, people with cerebral palsy, you're going to meet Chris Klein tonight, whom you may have seen before. He's in the movie. We're going to be talking to Chris, and Chris is going to be talking to us with the Pathfinder without the overlay, because he has become, but has it become cognitively automatic? Oh yeah. Let me explain what I mean. He knows he's linguistically automatic. He's saying, now, I want my subject to be this word, so I put it before the first noun phrase, right? And then, it is the first noun phrase, and it's a noun, and then it's before the first verb phrase, yes, because he doesn't do any of that. None of us do any of that. This is linguistically and cognitively automatic. I believe the most complex things human beings do on a regular basis is talk. Because all of that linguistics is out of your consciousness, but you know operationally just how to do it. All of that articulation, there are speeches here. How many muscles are involved in saying semantic compaction? Oh.
Multiple.
Thank you, Tracy. That was a great insight. Okay. How many are involved in saying Tracy?
Multiple.
Well, not a multiple. It's a whole, there are about 70, muscles that are doing that, and it's being coordinated with our breath. I mean, it's unbelievably complex, and it's cognitive, linguistic, and motor, and perceptual, because we have to be here, we're getting feedback on our, okay. And do you remember when Rush Limbaugh tried to do it deaf, and he started getting, started losing rhythm and being strained, so the perceptual feedback is very important. Okay, here we go. Now, this is from Wendick and Laurel, and it's from Sensory Integration Movement, and that movement is famous for really appealing theories and no data. But this stuff is kind of commanding here, and I think it's probably right on. Language processes appear to be discretely located at both cortical and thalamic levels. Okay, in the brainstem, auditory impulses travel to other areas and to the cerebellum, where input is further mixed with motor messages. Auditory information going to cortical processing areas is not purely auditory. This convergence of information appears to be essential for auditory input to have meaning. Let me just demonstrate that to you. Maybe that first sentence doesn't seem to make sense to me when I read. Okay, and so what do? I sort of read it under my breath. Language processes appear to be discretely. Oh, I get it. So what I'm doing is I'm giving the motor plan, I'm saying it again, I'm hearing it with my inner speech, and then when that isn't enough, I start vocalizing. Isn't that how we read a complex sentence that we're not getting? Yeah, I mean, we say, man, I need to put more stuff in here, and the stuff you put is in the brain stem. Auditory impulses, traveling to the cerebellum, mixing it with motor messages. Auditory information going to cortical processing areas is not purely auditory. This convergence of information appears to be essential for auditory input to have meaning. Now, back in the early 80s, I sort of knew this and sort of didn't know this. And when Joan Bruno and I were writing applications together, maps, Minspeak apps, we'd say, well, let's just move that. We have the, well, let's move it. And we were happy to move things, pictures around to students who already knew the motor plan for. And I know I can remember that because we didn't give a thought to the motor plan. One day I asked Joan, I said, Joan, is it going to confuse them to move it around? And she said, no, once they see it's more functional, they'll adapt right to it. Well, that may be true with one icon. It's not true when you go to another page and there are a whole pile of other icons. Okay. Bodily afferents are needed to think with language. We kind of knew that, didn't we? One of the reasons it's hard to understand a foreign language is we don't have any inner speech for it. I mean, usually if someone is saying, my aunt's pen, we know it's my aunt's pen. But if someone says, la plume de ma tante, I mean, we do not have that in our inner speech. And one of the things that you get when you're living in a country is a few months, you start getting those plans, you start getting that inner speech. Now, our guys have inner speech to a degree, but it has never been exteriorized, so their inner speech is very wobbly. Okay. The most important neuromechanism involved in language may be the convergent neuron. These polysensory neurons require intersensory information before they will fire. They are coded to fire when 3 or more kinds of input are received: somatosensory, proprioceptive, auditory. Language needs to be attached to sensory motor experiences so that children can process these experiences with language rather than separate from language. Now, this is a multiple page system. It's very clear how this works. There are no leaps of thinking. Here's a master page where you have environments like circle time or getting dressed or trips, and where you have these. Okay, then you select one, circle time, and it says there's always good morning, how are you? And then there is, today is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but you know. There are those things there, and then in clothes, you name a bunch of clothes, and trips, you name frequent destinations, the doctor's office, you know. And then off this comes special vocabulary, the zoo animals, so there's monkey, snake, you know. Okay, now, that is cognitively clear to the speech therapist. He or she is going to be teaching vocabulary. I had a relatively well-known local speech therapist who's a good guy, but he came to my class and he does a lot of work with communication wallets and something, you know, things like that. And I asked him to do that stuff. And a student raised and said, Mr. Blank, where's the language? And he said, vocabulary. Vocabulary and language, that's the same thing. Do we all see how this works? It looks like a good plan. But in 6 months, here it is. Do we see it? Say adolescent girl is at doctor's office. Her mother has put her on that page. She's at the doctor's office, and the doctor, you know, puts her down into a bit of a dressing gown and notices that there's a big red mark on her left side. Looks at that and says, where did you get that red mark? Well, she got a bright red Christmas coat, and it was a little tight in her wheelchair, and she wore it yesterday for Sunday services, the Sunday before Christmas. And where would she find that information? I would say red coat or beautiful coat, that's the phrase. Okay. Well, she's in doctor's office. She got there through activities. Would she have to go back to activities? Yeah. Not necessarily. Although there are only 20 keys here, she would probably have 2 navigational keys, 1 key to take her back to the master page. So she would take you back to the master page, Then she would select the getting dressed page. And now, this is a big winter coat. She wore it to church. It's quite dressy. Well, she went to here and it's not there. It's over. She goes back up to getting dressed, comes down into winter clothes, and then finds it. Now, what kind of cognitive activity would have been involved in that?
And even if she was the one who had chosen where to put it,
It would.
she would have still had all of these navigational things to happen. Even if she knew not to make that mistake to go there,
Oh yeah.
she would have still had.
Yeah, she would have had to have gone back here, or gone back here, come down here, and at each juncture there would have been thinking.